All right. Yes, unfortunately, we cannot see your video because we understand the network is really bad. Well, your audio has really been fantastic. Thank you as always. Well, this is the morning brief. Let's get to switch gears and begin with our very first conversation this morning. And he's a man that needs no introduction. But Jeff, you have this?
Well, let's get started. The AAC presidential candidate has been on the ballot before. He's back in the ballot this time, and he has alternative ideas. So whatever it is the president has presented to Nigerians in the last 3 years plus. Sowore is a human rights activist and a presidential candidate of the AAC. It's been a while I saw Mr. Sowore via Zoom. Good morning, Mr. Sowore. Can you kindly unmute your device? Let's hear you. Because we can't hear you.
All right, good morning. How are you? Good morning.
Well, very well. Good morning. Good morning. So, yes, let's start with the one that has been causing a lot of trouble before we go to, issues around policy and policy alternatives and some of the things that has been proposed by this government. It looks like it will never go away. Your credentials, everybody's credential, presidential and vice presidential candidate has been presented, but it looks like the president is getting the highest heat. But it looks like we've gone through this road before. Why do you think it's generating more another set of reactions again?
It is because Nigerians have been through this before, and Nigerians have, fortunately, recent memory of the president having presented different sets of results in the past. I'm talking about 1999, when he presented certain primary school and that he went to government college in Ibadan, and University of Chicago in 1999 was what he presented. University of Chicago. And I remember Chief Gani Fawemi taking him up upon finding out that he has fake credentials. And the excuse then was that someone else had helped him to fill his form. And as a result, he made the mistake. That was how they went back to Chicago State University as his original university. So people were expecting, in view of the controversy around the NEPA certificate of Buhari, that this man will come clean. You all knew that the 2023 election was almost about credentials as well, where there was a whole legal issue in Chicago. I think U.S. District Court of Chicago over the certificate issue, and the university was compelled to release the certificate, but the public was skeptical. So people had expected that in filling out his form this time around, we'll see a primary school, you'll see a secondary school, and then we can now understand how he ended up in Chicago State University. That issue just became very murky, and as you can imagine, Nigerians expectedly jumped on the issue. There was something fishy and shady about the background of the president. As a presidential candidate myself, I realized that when people were filling forms, the president did not go near INEC, he sent third parties. And you can imagine that if you check very well, he's probably not the one who also did his other preparation for filling the form. And this is not acceptable under the electoral, that the candidate doesn't even know the people filled out his forms or how his form got into INEC. So expectedly, Nigerians are very skeptical about the background of the president, that they have a shady background. If you add that to the whole legal issues behind drug pushing or drug trafficking in 1993, the issue of the fight in the U.S., and the refusal of the president to allow his personal records to be released to people who had applied for it through the Freedom of Information Act in the U.S. all gets compounded, and everybody just saying once again, there we go again, another NEPA certificate.
Well, but from your view, the law says school start. So in your view, and this is your personal view now that I want to get from you, is it breaking the law if you didn't present primary and secondary but presented something higher than the minimum that is required? Or this is a moral argument you are making?
It's not a moral argument. The law says school certificate. That is the minimum. All right. So you cannot present a secondary school certificate. You present a university certificate. You have met the maximum requirement, but you have not met the minimum requirement. That's what the law says.
Okay, before I yield the floor to yield the questions to my colleague, let's talk about what is going on now. And I know your ideas centric, always different. There are so many things I follow and that you do online that I'm going to ask questions around. But let's talk about what is presently going on with the government. They have seen that, look, for us to be able to be effective as a nation, a lot of people believe that let's decentralize our security architecture, especially the police, by having state police. And we're seeing a lot of progress in terms of preparation for that state police. The latest is the fact that they're working on a draft that will be presented to the president, I think in September, for it to become a bill that will be forwarded to the National Assembly for consideration and passing. They've opened a 2 weeks window for everyone who has a proposal to that draft in terms of memoranda. So first question, what do you make of this? Are you going to make contribution, or this whole idea is really not it for you? Because I know you always have your own ideas.
Well, let me make a clarification first. And my clarification is that I do not have any problem with state police. I do not have any problem with decentralization of security. But decentralization of security also means that we go back to full federal system. You should not cherry pick on decentralization. That there's one thing you like and there's another you don't really like. I am in support of state policing. I'm in support of local government policing. I'm in support of even campus policing. I'm in support of every town and village in Nigeria having its own police. My own issue is that they must be properly trained, they must be properly regulated, monitored, because my priority as far as these issues are concerned is human rights. And you know that also anybody who is involved in this police or policing must be appropriately remunerated. We must think about their pension, their salaries, so that you just don't hand weapons over to people who are hungry, who then become part of the security problem in the country. We've had enough of that. But I also align and agree with those people who say this is suspicious, that this is being rushed and is not going through proper parliamentary procedures for the enactment of a major law like this, because this is a major constitutional change that we are going to experience, and that it should have been open to public debate. It should have gone across the state so that the public can make inputs. But we are being rushed, and considering that the election year or cycle, and that Nigerian state governors are not trustworthy to be handed, security personnel of this scale, that people said, well, hey, wait a minute, why don't we just take our time to figure this out, so that we don't end up in the middle of elections, with state police in the hands of these very ravenous political juggernauts who are called governors. They are apparently some of the most powerful politicians in the country. So that's where my position stands, that I align with those who say let's be careful, because we can't entrust our security in the hands of people who we know to not have respect for human rights and boundaries. Yeah.
Mr. Sowore, journalist, activist, politician, you have had your own share of a very fantastic, in court, experience with the police. So I wonder, the window for calls for contribution, it's about 2 weeks for Nigerians to contribute. Do you think that is not enough? What's the duration you're proposing?
It's not enough, because this is not just enacting a simple law. Here we are changing the constitution. The Constitution of Nigeria did recognize a national.
So how long do you propose? How long do you suggest that perhaps Nigerians can have to probably engage more with the state's policing bill?
I would say that we wait until the elections are over. Election is a major distraction at this time, and a lot of people election is 6 months, barely 6 months from now. And everybody is going to be more interested in how to campaign, how to choose their candidates, and how to ensure the elections are free and fair. To now insert state policing a very major constitutional change or fundamental federal structural change that could lead to structural damage or that could lead to interference with the election is not the best time. That is the only issue I have with the rushed, and that so when we are done with the elections, we can commence immediately with a conversation about state policing and who where in terms of breaking down the security architecture in the country.
All right.
That's my position.
All right. So, I mean, there are a number of issues of national interest to engage your views on. I know that if I ask you perhaps to rate the current administration, I'm sure you're going to reel out a lot they have not done.
It's a question that you should no longer be asking me. Right?
And that's why I want to ask you, perhaps in the last 3 years of this current administration, what is the good thing that you think they have done that you admire and like? What are the positives for you?
Nothing, because I rate the government from a number of parameters, and one of it is security. You know where we are failed. We're talking about the power sector. The national grid has collapsed more than anything else in this country in the last 3 years. We're talking about education. We are now asking our children to borrow to go to school. We are talking about healthcare. Even the president doesn't go to Nigerian hospitals. We're talking about food security. Nigeria is on the list of countries that is regarded as hungry, to the point that the FAO, I think it's the body that's in charge of agriculture and food, the Food and Agriculture Organization. So
FAO.
Yes, considers Nigeria as one of the places you have to send food to in 2026 to feed these people. We're talking about the economy. We have grown the number of poor people from 70 million about 3 years ago to 140. Oh, that doesn't look good. We are talking about multidimensionally poor people. So you tell me, if you look at all these parameters, where I could fit even a good comment, where I can even grade them F. I can't find it. As I usually say, being a former professor or teacher, professors is what they call teachers in the US, university teachers. I would just ask the administration to leave. That would have done. If Tinubu were to be in my class, I just ask him to go and find another school.
So it looks like you're aligning with the NDC presidential candidate, who is also urging Mr. Tinubu to retire. But it's not a practice in this part of the world that we see politicians get to just resign just like that. But you've mentioned a few things.
I'm not asking him to retire. I'm asking him to go back to school. Yeah, he can go and pay primary.
So that's he's educated. I mean, he has a degree from the University of Chicago. But let's stay with the issues, Mr. Sowore.
You don't know that the person who obtained the degree is government.
So you've mentioned a few things, and I want to perhaps take you up on some of those issues, even though I do not hold brief for the government. The macroeconomics, on the macroeconomic side of things, we are doing so well. The CBN was awarded as the CBN of the year in the UK. That's a global recognition. And so on the macro side of things, everything looks good. The numbers, the GDP, it looks good. Just allow me land on the question so that you can respond to all of them. So it looks good, and the government is holding that. You know what? We are doing well. Very soon we're going to translate to the micro side of things. You've mentioned health. The government would argue that, President Tinubu is not the first president to go abroad for medical tourism. His predecessors have always done that. Senators, ministers, and even governors have done that. You've mentioned education, for instance. The government could brag, for instance, and say, we are helping students with their fees. That's a means of perhaps applying some sort of palliatives for the effects of removing fuel subsidy. So I wonder, you think all of this don't hold water at all?
They don't hold up. When people want to come to power in Nigeria, when they are contesting for office, they specifically make promises. And so maybe we should start by judging the current administration over the promises they made. In fact, Tinubu made it clear in the area of power sector that if you are not getting 24 hours electricity by the time I'm done with the first tenure, don't vote for me again. We are very close to the end of the first tenure. So he has failed in that power sector. He has failed in the education sector because there are still 13 or more million kids who are out of school. You haven't been able to fix that. You are giving student loans to people who already can't even afford to pay for it. You are using their own loans, your own resources and revenue to give them money to go to school. Even America that started it is looking for a way out of giving loans to people because it's distress. Instead of giving grants, scholarship, and building more schools, you're not building anything. So when you want to deceive Nigerians, you want to deceive people, you start breaking economies into macro and micro level. You say that the Central Bank of Nigeria got an award from somewhere in the UK. The central banking system is not a Nobel Prize award situation where somebody, if your central bank gets an award from any of these award-winning organizations in the UK, which I'm sure you don't even know where they came from, it doesn't mean anything if your people are hungry, if your monetary policies are in shambles, if your currency is weak, if your job market is is tanking, or your inflationary system is rubbishing your people's quality of life. What are we talking about? We've always heard this before, that the central bank got an award somewhere, and at the end of the day, when we are done with the central bank governor of that same period, you send the central bank governor to jail for having committed massive economic crimes. So please, let's just be serious for once and stop, showing all this, they got an award from here on the base economy. Don't break any macro. It's not as if I don't understand micro and macroeconomic theories, but I want us to pin it down to the quality of life of the Nigerian people.
Yes.
Are you feeling better than you were 3 years ago? The answer is no.
Yeah, Mr. Sowore.
Yes. Macroeconomic policy and your central bank awards.
Yeah, I'm sure you understand micro and macros because that's you're a presidential candidate, and they are good.
I don't understand.
I'm not debating that. I'm sure you do. I've just confirmed. I just said I'm sure you do. What I'm saying in essence is that there are good and bad sides, which you've highlighted. But let's talk about what I have followed on your platform that you propose. I'm a bit curious, so that we'll break it down. So, listening to Taiwo Yedele, who is the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, and the data available shows that Nigeria unemployment number, based on the ILO standard that they brought in a few years ago, is about 5%. I don't know how that helps policymakers, but that's what we have to deal with. But we also have the poverty numbers from the ND. Nigeria Development Update from the World Bank keeps it at 763. Some say it's 70, but the minister, I think he said, it's about 70. So his deduction, inference, says that if we have unemployment, that number, and then we have this number of poor people, whether it's income poverty or multidimensional, which is accessibility poverty, it shows that we have a lot of working poor people, which has to be addressed. I'm saying, given this background to what you will do, because you said, correct me if I'm wrong, that if you become president of Nigeria, you will make the finance minister, AI will be our finance minister. I'm a bit lost. So maybe you can help Nigerians understand what you mean by that.
You should not be lost. What I'm saying is that the word AI is artificial intelligence. And I am going to get rid of all this overhead of people who drive SUVs to go to work for a job that can be done by artificial intelligence. What is the job of a finance minister? He goes in there, they discuss monetary policy, they discuss fiscal policies, and then mostly in Nigeria, the job of a finance minister is to pay contractors and take his own cut out of it. I'm saying mostly. And attending meetings and explaining, I'm saying that I can sit somewhere, have an AI model that can do most of that work. I'll say 70 to 80% of it, especially on the side of, tabulating revenues, ensuring that payments are received and paid. And at the same time, not only will they get rid of the office of the finance minister, most of the job is doing, is also going to help us with auditing. So we will not need an Auditor General of the Federation. We will need an Accountant General of the Federation. All these offices can be merged together by AI. I am explaining to you that in view of where the world is headed, to cut off most of this overhead, I am going to now waste my time on these civilians who are walking around and giving lectures at seminars over economic systems that are not working, by concentrating a lot of the work that can be done with the help of an AI. A country, I think Albania, actually has an AI minister, a minister that's called, I think, Aurelia or something, whose job is to assist with a lot of their AI needs. There's also in the UK, a minister has been assigned to handle AI. And don't forget that I'm one of the first persons to invent the internet, to the extent that some 20 years ago I came to Nigeria, or 15 or 17 years ago, I said that everybody who is still publishing physical newspapers should move online. They made fun of me. Look at where we are today. I don't know the last time anybody saw a physical newspaper. So we have come to a different industrial revolutionary period, and artificial intelligence is going to drive that period. And each time there's an industrial revolution, the world becomes a better place. And if you doubt what I'm telling you, you should look at what is prevailing in the world. The role of, in fact, I think in the next 5 years, this conversation will become obsolete in the next 3 years as to whether the role of AI. Yes, a lot of people still want to see the faces of the old faces of their bureaucracy. I want to get rid of them. That is where the idea came from. And I want to say finally that there are now economic models that are built around AI, around these new industries that will fetch you more revenue than our crude oil or whatever we've been used to. So you better get ready for it. I know that when Sowore comes to say something, everybody will just critique it simply because they think I'm crazy. And then one day they'll come to realize that I was right. In 2019, just want to say briefly, I was the one who told Nigerians to embrace the cannabis industry as a product that can generate revenue. They said, they still want to ban it. Canada now makes $4 billion every year from cannabis. And my proposal was cannabis in the sense of medicinal cannabis, around which refineries can be built and billions of dollars can be generated, which is where the rest of the world is. So you better listen to Sowore now so that you can have a better future.
Yeah, your ideas are quite outlier. They are very, very radical. And I think a lot of people are used to a very radical idea. And I'm thinking to myself, if Sowore becomes president of Nigeria, what kind of president will Omoyele Sowore be? Now, maybe you answer that question in answering my main question. What kind of president will Omoyele Sowore be? But significantly, when it comes to corruption, which you hate so much, how would you combat corruption? Because over invoicing, kickbacks, corruption is one of the biggest problems we have. Even though we have insecurity issue, even in security itself, there's a bit of corruption as alleged that people don't use some of the funds or don't release the funds that are needed. You can go on and on. So what kind of a president will Sowore be? How will Sowore tackle corruption? Because we need a president that can tackle corruption fiercer.
Yes, so exactly what led us to this conversation. You see, the biggest thing with corruption in Nigeria is that you allow corrupt people to have access to your wealth or your revenues. The first way to deal with corruption is to ensure that access is cut off. You cut off the oxygen from corruption because your invoicing system, your payment system, your office attendance system, your payroll, your staff strength is all technologically monitored. So you cannot come and tell me that you have. Let me give you an example of police. I know police a little bit and they know me a bit. Nigeria claims to have over 310,000 policemen today. But when I was fighting for them or fighting against them, we discovered that there are only 210,000 policemen in Nigeria police force. So you have over 100,000 policemen that don't exist or exist but are ghost workers. Some of them are abroad. What they do is that that somebody is right here in Nigeria, who are their bosses, collecting the salaries and sharing it amongst themselves and giving a little bit to those ones who have left or who have died, who they refuse. This is something technology can do overnight, to say, look, you just give every policeman a number and a barcode, and the only way you can collect the salary is if you can present that barcode. It shows your biological information, and you can get paid. It shows when you attend work and when you don't attend work. I'm just giving that. What I'm trying to say is that preventive measure is number one. What Nigeria has been doing with corruption is the enforcement part, and because it's popular to handcuff a person or to hear that one big man has been arrested and he's on his way to the EFCC, or the EFCC has invited somebody. Nigerians love that, and it is because they know what corruption has done to them. So the first thing is to prevent the thieves from getting their hands on your revenues, your resources. If that is taken care of, we can go to enforcement. And with enforcement, I will introduce special courts. There's no reason somebody stole 8 billion naira or 20 billion naira or 200 billion. Now they're stealing trillion. And the trial takes 8 years. And by the time you are done with the trial, all the witnesses have died, or they have, some of the witnesses that are even working, that are supposed to testify against them, have been employed by them, or they are the ones now paying their dues and their pensions. You have completely destroyed the enforcement and the judicial part of fighting corruption. And the last part of it is, like I have said, is to shame corrupt people. And it might be a little bit outlandish, but it would be great to have a museum of national thieves in this country, where if somebody stole so much money, we can confirm that, no matter who he is in society, people can go and look at them and say, oh, this is the guy who made it impossible for us to have education. This is the guy who made it impossible for us to have roads. But the most important thing is for us to stop doing our businesses in opaque manners, deploy technology lightly to ensure that everything we are doing is transparently clear to everybody. A contractor is not, and whomever is the contractor, the business is known, the board members of the businesses are known, and how payment is made can be done with true blockchain technology, so that we can track every dime that is paid out. And if there's somebody who's getting paid twice, your technological system will flag it before they get paid twice, or they get paid 2 times. Yes.
It sounds good listening to you, and we hope to see that kind of Nigeria, Mr. Sowore. There are a lot of things to engage you on. There's the Osun State case. There's the Mary Abila case, which you've also, given your perspectives on. But let me just perhaps bring in something else, which some people are asking: what exactly is happening to your protests and your following? Because there are those who question your protests. They say that it's not organic. In fact, some say that your protest most times is what we call in this part of the world RNG, and I covered one of them, one of the End Bad Governance protests, where after the protest, a few of those protesters gathered somewhere for perhaps settlement. So I'm wondering, what exactly is going on with your protest and your following?
I want to correct it, and I want you to not just be very casual about accusing us of paying protesters.
No, it's what some people are saying. It's not a matter of.
No, what you said. You cover it. If you cover it,
yes, I've covered one.
So that means you have evidence that you saw us paying protesters to go and protest. You should present it to the public. Otherwise, you leave doubts in the organic nature of what we do. That's number one. Secondly, and that's why I said don't be flippant or casual about it, because this is a major thing.
So we're not flippant here.
Wait.
We're not flippant. But is it organic or RNG? That's what we're asking.
No, wait. I understand what you're trying to do, but that's fine. Second is that the End Bad Governance protest we are talking about happened in 2024. It was one of the largest protests that took place in this country. It happened in Kano, in Kaduna, in Lagos, Abuja. All of you have the footage. Journalists were attacked at Ojota because it was a protest that went on for days. It was that protest that led to the treason trial of underage kids in Kano, and even in Borno State, where they just recently, the Court of Appeal just quashed a judgment of a lower court sentencing those guys. Are you suggesting that all those guys, the 14-year-olds, were paged to be tried for treason, or they're concerned about their country? The second thing I want to mention is that, see, just understand the nature of protesting has changed. Yes, there's physical protest, but protesting happen in more than one ways these days. Before, the only way you could protest is to carry your placards and go in front of a place. But now, if we call for a protest, most of it is even happening online. The entire country or the diaspora can participate in one protest. So if someone is participating in a protest online, on Twitter, on Facebook, on TikTok, you are suggesting that we pay all of those people. That's not correct. So people protest in more than one way. And what protests represent for us is resistance against whatever policy we are against. I was the one who organized the 2019, alongside my friends, 2019 revolutionary protests that happened in 26 states. We started the NSAS protest in 2020. It was highlighted by Revolution Now. We did the 2024 End Bad Governance protest across this country. We've done several other protests, sometimes online. We have done protests on Zoom. I think maybe there's some catching up that journalists need to do. And by the way, there will be a protest tomorrow, which is the Revolution Now protest of August 5. We do that every year. The one of 2024, the End Bad Governance protest in 2024, was also the remembrance of Revolution Now of August 5. So, because I was arrested on August 3rd, 2019, and every year ever since then, even when we couldn't have many people, we protested. So protest is no longer limited to people going around physically protesting. Protest has evolved and decentralized, and we have gained more impact protesting than.
All right, Mr. Sowore, we're totally out of time. Great conversation always with you, but 30 seconds. I'm wondering, we've known you from when you were in University of Lagos. We have your record of fighting for democracy, even in the face of the military. One wonder, is it that you've rejected a national honor, or you've not been given a national honor at any time? Why don't you have a national honor? Because I feel that you deserve a national honor.
If anybody proposes and include my name in this national dishonor, I'll sue the person for as much as my reputation can pay. I'm not just, generally I hate awards, and because awards have been bastardized in Nigeria. So on a personal level, I hate awards. So I don't need a national honor. I didn't start protesting because of national honor. I started protesting because of national, personal dignity for everybody in my
country.
All right. They can keep the national honor to themselves. I don't need it. And you can put me any day that doesn't need national honor. Even when I die, if anybody gives me a national honor, I'll come back alive and make them
Omoyele Sowore, AAC presidential candidate. Always a delight to talk to you. Thank you for coming on the program. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Good morning.
We will take a break. When we come back after this break, we're going to talk about something. Thuggery touts in Lagos. Over the weekend, a young gentleman, Pella, who is a streamer, got married to his wife, to the lady Jarvis, who is also a content creator, both content creators. But some of the videos emerging, they are not really new, but it's becoming very concerning. Now, whether you drive a regular car or you drive, the very expensive luxury cars, it looks like you're not safe in some parts of Lagos, where people literally, when begging becomes literal harassment, and it's becoming a very disturbing concern. I saw a video of one of those gentlemen in this car literally almost having a panic attack because of how it was overcrowded by these young boys on the street. How do we make young people productive in Lagos and stop this aggressive begging and thuggery and touts? We'll talk about that in a moment. Stay with us.